Now, last week, we started talking about how to beat debt. We're doing a short 2-week series on finances. And we talked about how do you defeat debt. And really what I said is you got to learn to hate debt. You don't beat it if it's like a toy or a game or a pet. It's like my pet debt. See my pet debt? Look how big my pet is growing. It's like, no, you don't ever beat it till you hate it, and then you can destroy it. And I talked about Dave Ramsey's plan. If you've ever heard of Dave Ramsey and you come to this church, I'll talk about Dave Ramsey a lot because he helped me so much. DaveRamsey.com, you can go there. And he talks about 7 steps. And I talked about all 7 of them, but I want to just remind you the first 3 last week that we talked about. The first step 1 is you immediately put $1,000 in an emergency fund. So this is perfect timing. Some of you are about to get a stimulus check and you don't have an emergency fund. Woohoo, take that, plop it into a savings account and say, this is my emergency fund. It is only for emergencies. And then nothing is an emergency. Don't touch it. You know, a new outfit is not an emergency, right? That's not an emergency. Eating out, a trip, those aren't emergencies. You just protect it for emergencies. Your car breaks down, that's an emergency. And then the second step is you pay off all the debt except your mortgage. So that, and I talked last week about some families taking 3 to 7 years to do that. Imagine 7 years, the patience you have to work on that step alone for 7 years, and that's what one family did, and we talked about it last week. 7 years, and they did it. And then you get into the fun one, step 3. As a matter of fact, from 3 on up, it gets a lot more fun. 3 is then you set aside 3 to 6 months of your total take-home your total expenses in a savings fund, and that's your emergency fund. And the reason 3 to 6 is important is because the average American is unemployed when they lose their job 3 to 6 months. So if you have 6 months of all your expenses in a savings account and you lose your job, and it takes you 4 months to find a new job, you don't really have an emergency, because you've already got it saved. And then from here, after this, and I don't have them up here, 4, 5, and 6 are really fun, and 7, that's where you get to build wealth and you get to live and give like few people in America. It really gets fun from here. But I put this slide up here again, and this one specifically because, like I said, I really talk a lot about Dave Ramsey because of how much he helped me personally. So I was digging a very deep hole with debt when I finally took the Dave Ramsey course, Financial Peace University. And the first emotion I felt was depression. It's like, oh my goodness, look what I've done to myself. I've dug this enormous hole. This can take me forever to get out. And so I did step 1 and step 2 and worked. And it took years to finally pay off the debt that I had created. And then you go to the third one, and that's kind of exciting. Once you're no longer paying debt payments and all that money can go right into your emergency fund, that's fun. Because all of a sudden you're seeing it grow every single month, and time is passing. And now time is working for you. And we did it. We got our emergency fund to 6 months of our full expenses. And we had a big family, 5 kids. It's a lot of expenses. So you can imagine how big that fund was. And it was just like this sense of peace comes over you. It's like, wow, look at that. Look at that. We can have a big emergency and not have a problem. And then it's sort of like, you ever heard the phrase, take your foot off the gas? You ever heard that phrase? It's like all of a sudden, all the diligence that we were working at, just kind of like we took our foot off the gas pedal. It's like, yeah, we're kind of coasting now, because now we're in a good spot. And within 1 year, here's what we did. A buddy of mine told me about a really good deal on a car. And it was a good car, much nicer than what I was driving. And it was a really good deal on it. And so we said, why don't we buy this? And so we took a huge chunk out of our emergency fund to buy a car, to upgrade our car. Then, not long after that, another friend of mine was selling his van. We had a big family. And it was a great deal for this van. A great deal. I mean, too good to pass up, right? So we took another huge chunk out of our emergency fund to upgrade our van. So now we've upgraded both our vehicles and we're feeling really good. Then other things happened, and then we were on a vacation and we went to one of those things where they're like, hey, if you listen to our spiel, we'll give you a free night out. You can have a free meal on us. So we're like, all right, we'll do that. We're resistant to this. We're savvy. We're fine with this, no problem. So we listen to the spiel, get all the way through. We just keep saying no. And the last salesman says, all right, listen, it's like a vacation package, but there's no ongoing monthly expense. Just pay this amount of money and you can have it forever and it won't cost you anything after this. And we're like, oh, too good a deal to pass that up. And so out of our emergency fund comes another big chunk of money. And in less than a year, we took that enormous emergency fund all the way down to $2,000. It was actually less than $2,000. And then guess what happened? Guess what we got next? An emergency. And all of a sudden, we have no fund left. We got 2 nice vehicles in this vacation package and no money in this emergency fund. Have you ever made financial mistakes that when you looked back on them, you felt kind of stupid? I felt really stupid. It's like, why couldn't I see what I was doing in the middle of this? And now all of a sudden we've got a problem because we violated the rules that were getting us where we wanted to go. And those financial mistakes were extremely costly for us. Extremely costly for us. And the reality is, that's common, right? All of us, all of you, if I let you stand up here and tell stories, you could tell stories about financial mistakes you made that were really costly that you look back on with regret. The reality is we can make mistakes with money that make us pay a big price. They can keep us in debt. They can take away any financial peace of mind. They can prevent us from saving from future needs. They can keep us actually living from paycheck to paycheck, which is where most Americans live. And God doesn't want any of this. God doesn't want this for you. That's the good news. Did you know how serious God is about helping you avoid financial mistakes? Take a look at this slide. 2,350 verses in the Bible are how many verses there are about money and possessions? 2,350 verses. There's only 500 total on prayer and faith. Now, prayer and faith are kind of important religious themes, right? And God's like, yeah, that's nothing compared to what I'm going to show you in the Bible about money and possessions. I'm going to multiply that times more than 4. That's how many times he talks about it in the Bible. Over and over and over again, he says, here's what you can do that will keep you from making financial mistakes. And if you learn from God, listen, you're going to learn one way or the other. You're either going to learn by paying the price because you do it wrong, or you can learn by seeing the light, right? You either feel the heat or see the light, and I hope this is a see the light message for some of you, because I really want to help you prevent you from making some of the mistakes I've made. As a parent, I got to tell you this, just a side note. If you're a parent and your kids grow up, and they are out on their own, you feel more of this. I know I do. When my kids are making mistakes that I made as a person financially, I feel this like energy and maybe a little like too much passion. It's like, stop, don't do that. I know where that goes. Don't do that. Nobody could talk me out of it. It's like, But I really hope that together we can really go through this and talk about how to prevent some of these mistakes. We're in this short little series that's ending today called Dollars and Cents. And I'm going to talk about, 2 money mistakes you can make that will hold you back. Couldn't do 3 with the time today. So I want to ask you to open up your program, take out the notes, grab a pen. These are really important things. I hope you understand why they're so significant and why I'm going to bring a lot of passion to this, because I really want to help people prevent the pain that I've lived through. So welcome to those of you too who are watching online. Glad you've joined us at whatever place that you're watching. If you're on our website at PenndaleChurchLife.com, you can see the notes right there. I want to encourage you to get them out. So mistake number 1, embracing lifestyle creep. And isn't that a graphic description? Lifestyle creep. It is a big issue in America. One of the financial blogs I was reading this last week had a great story. This woman was writing about lifestyle creep, and she said this: I remember calling my mom the day I got my first job, and I said this. She said, this is what I said to my mom. Mom, I'm going to be making $24,000 a year. How will I spend it all? Do you remember how you felt when you got your first job offer? You got out of college, you got out of high school, and somebody wanted to pay you money? My first starting job was $10,000 a year with no benefits, and I was like, someone wants to pay me $10,000 in a year? Are you kidding me? Whoa, right? How many of you could go back and live on your starting salary? Right, exactly. Quite a challenge, isn't it? That's lifestyle creep. It's the idea that as your income goes up, guess what else goes up with it? Your spending. Your income goes up, so we spend more. Our income goes up, we spend more, and we see this all across. I mean, I did that when I was that young pastor way back in the early 90s. The most I ever made in a full year was $18,000 a year. We had a family of 5. We had no debt. We lived on a budget. We saved money every single month living on $18,000 in Madison. So we did it. We were super frugal. And then you know what happened? Got my next job, my income doubled. You know what I did? My spending more than doubled. No savings, massive debt. My income went up and I just was like, party time. And off we went. And again, it wasn't like I had a lot of stuff to show for it. I just kept spending and spending and spending. Welcome to America. That's what we do. You can see it all around us. Take a look at this. I've shown you this before. In 1950, the average house size was 983 square feet, and it had almost 4 people in it, 3.8. And probably a dog in there too, right? And so it's not even 1,000 square feet. Do you know how many people today, how many young people would never live in a house that small? I would never live in a house that small. It's not even 1,000 square feet. My garage needs to be bigger than that. So this is what we've done today. The average house in America is 1,800 square feet. If it's a brand new house, it's 2,400 square feet, and we have less people living in that. That's lifestyle creep. It's like more and more and more and more and more, and you look at any area of our lives as Americans, and we've creeped. We've creeped. Did you know how many outfits the average woman in 1950 owned? 9. 9 outfits. I'm actually a little bit skeptical about what they say now the average woman in America owns, because I'm a little bit shocked at this. Only 30. Only 30. I was a little bit skeptical about that. I'm like, I'm not sure believe that. I think it's a little higher. But either way, makes the point, right? Creep is all around us. Now, the interesting thing is, do you know that they've been doing a survey for decades in America about how happy are you as Americans? How happy are we? So the percentage of Americans calling themselves happy, very happy, reached a peak in one of these years. Which year do you think it was? The highest percentage of Americans calling themselves very happy reached its peak in 1957. We consume twice as much as people from 1957, and the very happy rate continues to plummet. What does that tell you? What's that telling you? The more we consume, the less happy we get. The more you consume, and it is just a biblical principle. If you let lifestyle creep into your life, goodbye joy, goodbye happiness. It will not bring you happy. There's nothing down that path that's going to make you happy. Are we talking a lot about mental illness in America right now? It is an epidemic because this isn't working. The Bible's been saying this for so long. Those who love pleasure become poor. Those who love wine and luxury will never be rich. So if you aren't in control of this and you're letting yourself continue to creep and creep and creep, and it's always about bigger, better, more, then you're going to be poor and you're not going to be happy. It's not working for us. So how do we rein in our lifestyle creep? Well, obviously, the solution is you got to reprioritize your spending. It's your spending that's causing the issue, and you got to get your spending under control. So on your notes, I originally had something different on letter A. You can see the word trim. You can scribble out the word trim. Instead, I want you to write this. The first step to getting your lifestyle, keeping lifestyle creep under control is you live below your means. You make your expenses less than your income. You live below your means. You got to get that income, your expenses below your income. So the way to do that, of course, is with a budget, which I actually toyed with, and one of my points that I'm cutting out of here was all about budgeting. I put some budgeting notes on the back. Matter of fact, some of you don't like budgeting. There's a little URL you can go to on the back, and it'll take you to an article that talks about budgeting and why it's important for your life, because I know there's some skepticism in America. We don't like to talk about budgeting. We think of it as restricting, and the reality is it's actually freeing. Because you can see how you can get ahead with a budget. People get ahead, people that don't, and we've already talked about that in this series, really are going to struggle. But here's what we're seeing in America today. How many of you are aware of this? 27% of Americans earning 6 figures or more say that they still don't have what they need to take care of all that they need. Does that create any questions in your mind when you hear that? I doubt I'm talking to too many people or too many people are watching who make 6 figures or more. So maybe combined you do, but individually, probably not too many that make 6 figures. If your income went up to 6 figures tomorrow, would you have all that you needed to take care of your needs? Well, of course you would. But isn't that the problem? We have no idea what a need and a want is. So I put a little slide together. It's a little test for all of you. Identify which one of these are needs. Okay? Trick question, I get it. Because obviously only the golf clubs are a need. Everything else is a want. I knew I put one on there just for real, so you could see the real one. No, none of those are needs, right? None of them. And we have no idea. And so what happens, because we don't know what we actually need, we can confuse our needs with wants, and we get more money, and we just spend more because we spend it on our wants. So Paul talked about this in the Bible. He said this. He said, if we have enough food and clothing, we're going to be content with that. So he's like, here's what I need. Now, he was a tent maker, so he could make his own shelter. So basically, he's like, I have shelter, I have food, and I'm not buck naked running around telling people about Jesus. That's not a good thing. So I've got clothing, food, and shelter. Great. I have what I need. I don't need anything beyond that. And so the result of that is he could be content because he knew his needs were supplied by God. So that's what a really good budget does. It helps you trim out all the things that you don't need. A really good budget helps you identify, here's what we need, and here's what we want. And we're going to live below our means. We're going to spend less than we take in so that we are not giving into lifestyle creep. So the only way, I told you before a moment ago, that when we lived in Madison and we never made more than $18,000 a year, that we gave every month, we saved every month, and we never had debt. Now the way that we did that, and because we budgeted so carefully, was there were we really understood the difference between a need and a want. We never took vacations, ever. All of our vacations were staycations during that time period. You don't need to go somewhere tropical. You want to go somewhere tropical. So do I, but it wasn't a need. We had no car loans. We bought old, cheap, used cars, in some cases that literally had duct tape on them, and that's how it was, because it wasn't a need that it looked good as well. That was a want. The need was that it got me safely from A to B and back again. We never ate out, because that's not a need. It's just a want. We had no cable TV. We had no new furniture, never had a gym membership, because all of those things are just wants. But the result of that was you live below your means, and then all of a sudden lifestyle creep doesn't take over. So what is it that you would need to say no to get below your means so that your income exceeds your expenses? Lifestyle creep stops right there. Get your income below get your expenses below your income. Now the second thing is now you need to also start practicing gratitude. You really want to destroy lifestyle creep. This is a key one right here. You've got to practice gratitude. There's a doctor, Dr. Robert Emmons, who's a psychologist and a professor of psychology at UC Davis. And he has studied gratitude. Look at what he said. Gratitude has the strongest links to mental health and satisfaction with life of any personality trait. Again, how often are we hearing about mental issues in America right now? How much are we talking about the depressed American, the anxious American, the stressed out American, right? It is everywhere. And if you're not hearing it, then there's just so much being said about this, and you need to be aware of it. And what does his research says? And to my knowledge, he's not a Christian. He's just studying the information as it comes in. And he's saying gratitude is what changes people here. It changes you here. By the way, do you know that studies have shown it's simply the act of trying to figure out what you're grateful for? Not even if you can't come up with something, just trying to say, what am I grateful for right now? Just the act of trying to think about it that triggers the positive chemical responses in your brain. Even if you can't think of something, it doesn't matter. It's the act of trying to think about it that has such power in your life. He actually said in his research that you get one list when you're grateful, and if gratitude isn't a habit in your life, you get another list. So if you were looking at the list up here on this slide, which one characterizes your life more? One of those is an outcome of gratitude, and one isn't. Now, I know that there are a lot of Americans who'd be like, Brian, what are you talking to me about gratitude for? I don't have this, and I don't have this, and I have nothing to be grateful for. And I've shown you over and over again this slide. If you make $18,000 a year, you are now in the top 10% of wage earners on the planet. I mean, if you go to work at Walmart, you will earn $18,000 this year. And the moment you do, you now become one of the wealthiest people on the planet. If someday you get a raise and you get up to $30,000 a year, you now enter into the top 2% of all wage earners on the planet. On the planet. You are wealthier than 98% of all humans that will ever draw breath on this planet. And if someday you reach the pinnacle, $45,000 a year, you're now in the 1%ers of wealthiest people on the entire planet. Do you think the average American understands this? Did you understand it before you walked in? And do you have anything to be grateful for? Do you have anything to be grateful for right now? I make more than $45,000. I'm in the super wealthy group on this planet. I have so much to be grateful for. And God expects it. Matter of fact, look at the verse in the Bible. Paul says in Colossians, let the peace that comes from Christ control your thoughts and be grateful. And I think it is not a coincidence that God combines peace and gratitude in the same verse. If you want to know the peace that will control your mind, be grateful. Practice gratitude. You have so much to be grateful for. So many of you know that one of my personal habits in my life is that every day I try and step back from whatever I'm doing and say, God, here are 10 things I'm grateful for from the last 24 hours. And every day, that's one of my habits. The last 24 hours, what am I grateful for? Well, I had really good food yesterday, God. Thank you for that. I got some good schoolwork done. Thank you for that. So not even hard. What am I grateful for? And the habit of gratitude helps you be grateful for what you have and not focus on all the stuff around you that everybody else has that makes you so discontent. So practice gratitude. It will help with lifestyle creep. The next thing is pay yourself second. So that's not how that phrase goes, but I changed it on purpose. Pay yourself second. Normally the phrase goes pay yourself first. You heard that phrase before? Do you know what it means? Pay yourself first means that when your income goes up, the very first thing you do is you take that income and you aim it where you want it to go. You pay yourself rather than just letting it go somewhere. So it may mean you set up an automatic deduction and you aim that pay increase towards paying down your debt or building your emergency fund or saving for future need or retirement. You aim it where you want it to go. Otherwise, it'll just go. You get a pay raise and all of a sudden it's just gone. It's not like you have more money, but you don't know where it's all going because it just goes. And the Bible has said this for so long. The wise have wealth and luxury, but fools just spend whatever they get. Don't be a fool. Don't let your income go up and your expenses just go up to match it because you have more. You need to aim it at where you want it to go. And by the way, one of the most important things I've ever learned about that one is this fourth one. You have to identify what your long-term financial goals are. And again, we're so impulse-driven as Americans. We don't think about long-term. We barely think about tomorrow. So I know this one is really hard to do, but it is important that you think about what are your long-term financial goals. I have some very specific long-term financial goals, and they're right here. I want to graduate from college debt-free. So some of you know I'm back in school. This is what I love. I talk to you all the time. Time is either always working for you or against you, right? Always. Time's passing. Is time going to bring you more of what you want or more of what you don't want? So a couple years ago, I started finishing my college degree. And I am now in the second to the last semester. In June, I pay my last college tuition bill in June. And I graduate in August. And I will be debt-free. I will have worked 2 jobs in order to accomplish the goal, debt-free. And so what that has meant over the last couple of years is over and over again, people around me have heard me say, not while I'm in college. Sorry, not while I'm in college. Not while I'm in college. Not while I'm in college, because that matters to me. And then the next one immediately takes over everything. Weddings. I have 2 unmarried daughters. I'm engaged. And my fiance has 3 unmarried daughters. That's 6 girls. 6 girls. Do you know how much the average wedding in America costs? $30,000. No. We will pay half in cash if they elope. Off you go. So it's like, yeah, oh man. It's like, I mean, where's that money going to come from? Magic? Is it just going to be magic? It's going to be magic. I'll get to the day of the wedding, and magically money will appear in my hand. Stacks and stacks of cash. No, you know what will happen next? I'll be saying, not while they're not married. Not while they're not married. Not while they're not married. And then we drive old cars, and are those just going to magically last forever? How many think your car is going to last forever? No. So what am I going to do? I'm going to make it go where I need it to go, and then someday I want to retire. From something. Well, how's that going to happen? Magic again? No, you got to make it happen. And you do that by doing the one right before it. You pay yourself first so you can accomplish your goals. Now, what are your goals? That's what I want you to think about. What are your financial goals? What do you want to see happen? And then you make it happen. And this is so timely for me. Come back next week, and I'm going to tell you the full story of what God has done over the last few months. I can't tell you today. It's so cool. I want you to come back, though, next week, and I'm going to, or turn on the video next week and watch this. But I can tell you that one of the cool things is I just got a brand new job. Just signed it this week, and it comes with an increase in pay. And so I am in the middle of all of this right now, and I sat down this week, and I paid myself second. I immediately determined where every dollar of that new income is going to go. I'm not going to just let it go. Because it'll just go, right? How many of you get to the end of the month every month and are like, I just have so much cash left over, I just don't even know what to do with it all. I might as well buy something, right? Never happens. I mean, we're so out of control as Americans. How many of you have ever had this experience? It's like Christmas all the time in America. Yeah, how many of you have ever come home from work and seen an Amazon package on your front porch and go, I don't remember buying that. What did I buy? Well, it's like, well, I bought myself a present. I wonder what's in here, right? This is America. It's like we don't even know where we're spending it. It's like, get it under control. Tell it where to go so it achieves your goals. So how clear are you on where you want it to go? Again, I really want you to think back. And I have been thinking about this week, so I'm making you think about it too. If you had to go back to your starting pay, your first salary, what kind of changes would you need to make? You used to live on it. Think about how much creep has entered into your life. Get it under control. That's the number one mistake we're making in America. Now, I don't have time for number 2 at all, so I'm going to jump down to number 3. Number 3 is not trusting God with what you have. Not trusting God with what you have. And if you are not a follower of Jesus, then you are done. If you're watching online, turn it off. You do not need to watch this part at all. So if you're not a follower, so in other words, if you do not say, Jesus is my God, and I love him, and I want to do his will, then this is not for you. If you're here with me today and that's where you're at, then flip your notes over. There's some notes on the back. You can read those. You can go play on your phone, whatever you need to do. This point isn't for you at all. I've told you, though, many, many times, those of you who say you follow Jesus, I've told you everything's a test, right? Have you learned that yet? Everything. The weather is a test. we get 6 inches of snow tomorrow, it will be a test for all of us, right? Right? It's a test. What comes out of your mouth? What comes out of your heart? Your boss is a test. Some of you are tested every day. Every day. Your coworkers are a test. Your children can be tests, right? You face tests every day, and one of the biggest tests every day is your money. Every day, God is watching what you do with your money, and it's a test to see what's in your character, and also to see, will you trust God with what you have? Everything's a test. Why do you think there are 2,350 verses in the Bible about money and possessions? Because it's a big test. We face this test every day. And God in the Bible, I've read all 2,350 of those verses multiple times. God always does two things. They're right here up on the screen. He asks for something and then he promises something. This is his pattern in the Bible. If you do this, I will do this. So I ask for this, and in return, I will do this for you. When it comes to money and possessions, God asks very directly for us to become generous people, to give out of love for others, to provide for his church, and even to get to the point where we're willing to do that last word, which some of you know and some of you don't. The word tithe means the first tenth of what you earn, you give back to God at the place where you worship. That's what tithing means. The first tenth. So if you make 50,000, 1/10. That's what it literally means. Now, that is a little bit, people, I've talked to Christians over the years who repeatedly say, no, that's not in the Bible. So then they really don't like that one. And I get it. Why would you like that one? I mean, so they fight against this one. And so one of the common things that I hear, I just heard it recently, was, no, that's just for Moses under the law, because it's so biblical. It's all in there. So let me address that one, because I want to be really clear about this. Abraham tithed before Moses ever came along. Tithing existed before Moses and the law. Obviously, they tithed and it was a commanded practice for every Israelite when Moses was around. The first tenth of what they earned, they brought back to the temple, because the religious workers at the temple weren't allowed to have jobs, so they had to be cared for by the offerings and tithes of the people. Then the New Testament comes along, and the temple is replaced by the church. This person I was talking to recently said, and there's no verse in the New Testament about tithing. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, not only is there a verse, Jesus himself said it. Jesus actually was talking to the religious leaders of his day, and he said to them, you should keep tithing, but don't leave the other more important things left undone too. It's like, you don't even know that Jesus said, yes, keep doing this? He said it. I'm not making that up. And then, when you go beyond and you see what the church did, they literally gave beyond what they could even afford to give. Did you know that? In either 1st or 2nd Corinthians, it actually says they gave beyond what they could afford to give. So that's way beyond tithing. So it's like, you do not want to do what the New Testament church did. You better just keep it at 1/10. So I get a little frustrated when Christians push back so hard on this. It's like, just say you don't want to do it. You don't have to do it. God isn't going to make you do it. He's not putting a gun to your head. But don't say it's not real, and don't say it doesn't exist, and don't say it was just for that one time period, because that is not accurate. That's not what the Bible actually says. So I have tithed since I was 21 years old, and I heard about this. So here's why I do it. Tithing always reminds me that every dollar I have is God's anyway. Do you know that? I'm going to die. That's going to happen. Everything that I have in my possession now existed before me. After I'm gone, it will all stay here. It's not mine. I just have it for this. I'm temporarily holding on to it. That's it. It's his. Everything is God's, and tithing always reminds me that it's his. Tithing keeps God in the number one spot in my life. It gives me the opportunity to show how grateful I am to him. I'm supporting his church when I give, and I get all of his promises, and I'm convinced it's what God wants. And if you've heard me at all over the last few months, I have been obsessed with this one truth, this one thought in my mind. God, what's your will? What would you like done right now? So, because I know this is what he wants, I won't compromise this. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I believe that because I do this, that I get all of these promises that God talks about. He provides for my needs. He'll give back generously. He'll protect me and all my stuff. I have a 30-year-old washing machine that still keeps running. I think that is the hand of Jesus. So, right, that's it. I've got an 18-year-old car that still keeps running good. Thank you, Jesus, right? That's what he promises. That in the Old Testament, when he was making these promises, he said, your crops will grow better. You know, in an agricultural society, what a great promise. Every farmer wants that promise. Like, yeah, make my crops better. And that's what he's saying. You do this and I'll do this. It's always a conditional promise. You get my promises when you obey me. It counts for all eternity. I believe that. I believe that when I enter into the presence of God, that he will say, well done for that. And I'm going to be in eternity forever, so that's where I want all my stuff, not here. It gets rewarded, and you know what he said? Jesus said, wherever your treasure is, there your heart is. So if all your treasure is here, guess where your heart is? But I can use my giving to let my heart grow closer to God, and that's what I want. I am no longer at the point where I want more stuff. I want more Jesus. I want him. I want to know him. So I have to do this in order to be closer to him. And so this is just one of the many, many promises in those 2,350 verses in the Bible. Jesus said, give, and then it gets given back to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will just be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it'll be measured to you. And so do you know who's giving back to you? It's God. Jesus is saying, my Father will see when you give, and he'll be like, oh, look at how much they're giving. You know what, put more on here. Gabriel, bring me some more. We're putting more, and then I'm just pouring it in his lap. That's what he's promising. Jesus is saying, when you give, to the measure that you give a little bit, you get a little bit, you give generously, God rewards you generously. I believe that. So here's the outcome of that. So the solution is, that's why I didn't say pay yourself first, which is how the saying goes. What I believe is you pay God first. That's how I live my life. I pay God first. I want the first thing that I do when I get paid to be, Father, thank you. Here you go. As a response of gratitude to you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you that I have so much, that I'm in the 1%. I'm in the 1%ers. Now, did I choose to be in the 1%ers? Really? I chose to be born here rather than South Africa? Or rather than India? I didn't choose any of this. I have what I have because God allowed me to be born where I am with the skills and abilities I have that I use to make a living. And if he would have chosen differently, I would not have what I have. So out of gratitude to you, God, here you go. Thank you so much. You give to him first. The Bible says, honor the Lord by giving him your money, and the first part of all your crops, again, I give to God first. So, two things about this. Two things. First, I want to be really honest with you, I haven't always done this. From age 21 to age 46, I always did it. When we're making $18,000 a year, with a family of 5 in Madison, the first part of what I gave went right to God. And I'll tell you, honestly, there are many times I'm writing that thinking, God, this could be a car payment. This could be something. I had to decide, do I believe that less with God's blessing goes further than more if I just keep it all myself? And I made my decision until I was 46 years old. And for about 2.5 years, from 46 on, I didn't do this. The only time in my entire adult life where I didn't do this. I got scared. My income had gone down, I didn't see my future forward, and I was afraid, and so I held on. And I'll tell you, there's something attractive about just holding on. Holding like this, it's like you get more. It's like, man, I can buy more stuff. I can have more experiences now. Look what I get. That held on for a little while, but slowly it started moving back to this because I couldn't reconcile this truth. I believe to the core of who I am that less with God's blessing always goes further than more if I keep it all for myself. I can't stop believing that. That every one of those promises I just showed you, they're all true. And I couldn't stop believing the promises of God. So about 2.5 year mark, so I was about 48 years old, all of a sudden I was like, the day came where I said, enough is enough. God, I'm going to trust you again. The first tenth always is yours. Here you go. And I just went right back to the decision that I'd lived on. You can look in my career and you can see when I made that decision. Because all the cool stuff that's happening in my life right now, started right there. Now, that may just be the greatest coincidence on earth. But you know what? I don't believe that. I believe when you do what God wants, he blesses you. That's what I believe. So that's the first thing. Now, I know that there are some people who are skeptical, and some people are mad. When I talk about money, I talk this directly about it. But I got a job. I got a full-time job. So this is just a little part-time thing for me. I'm not saying this because I need more money. That's why I'm saying this. I got a full-time job. So this is what I do on the side. I'm saying this because I believe it, and I believe it's what's best for you. And I believe your life will get better if you do this. So to answer the skepticism, I thought of something. I thought, here's what I challenge you to do. Some of you want to try this. You want to see if God will keep his promises to you. You want to test it. Here's a simple thing. Try a 6-month experiment. For the next 6 months, make the first tenth of what you earn, you give it right to the place where you worship. But here's the thing. If this is your church home, don't give it here. If you think I have some manipulative purpose under this, here's what I'm saying. Pick another church. Pick a church in America that's doing great stuff like Saddleback or North Point or some other church. There are churches running food pantries and homeless shelters and all these great things. Find one of them and give to them. Support his church. Anywhere else, not me. Prove it. See if God proves it. And then I thought of this, and I did not tell the church leaders this, but I'm sure they'll be fine with it. So here's the thing. Here's the promise. If you were like, I want to see if God keeps his promises, I'm going to do this. So I'm going to give 6 months, first tenth of what I earn to another church for the next 6 months. And if God doesn't come through for you, if he's a liar and 6 months from now he hasn't done anything in your life, you just show us your receipts and we will guarantee that income. We'll pay it back, and you didn't even give it to us. How's that for putting our money where our mouth is? I completely believe this. Do you know how many people will come back after 6 months? 0. You know why? Because God is not a liar. And if I can't trust God's promises about my cash, how in the world am I going to trust him with something even more important, my eternal soul? It's like, yeah, I'll trust him with my eternal soul, but not money. Oh, no, that's too hard. No, it's the other way around. Your soul is the most valuable thing you have. Your cash won't live on, but your soul will, and you trust Jesus with that. Trust him with this. So put it to the test. Go ahead. For the next 6 months, give to any church you want. Just keep your receipts. If God fails to keep his promise, you come back and we'll write you that check. You got nothing to lose. The only thing I don't like about it is you're trusting in us. And the point of it is that you would trust in God. But if that's what it takes for you to step out in faith and trust in God, that's okay. That's what it's about, is trusting him. All right, in case I'm not communicating this clearly enough. It is all of life is ultimately about surrendering everything into the hands of a loving God. That's why I didn't title this, Involve God in Your Finances. That's not what it's about. It is about bringing your life fully surrendered to the God of love, who has promised so much for you. It's not about some of your money, it's about all of your money. It's about all of your life and all of your decisions. Fully surrendered to him. So when you think about this, as we finish it up today, are you making either mistake? Has creep entered in? Some of you need to follow the links on the back of your back of your notes today and go start getting on a budget and living below your means. Some of you, the most important thing that you heard today is you need to start being grateful. You need that habit in your life where one time a day, you pick the time, you spend some time thanking Jesus for 10 good things he let you have in the last 24 hours. You need to rewire your brain just to be grateful for all that we have. Some of you need to start paying yourself second. Some of you know it's time because you want more of God in your life and you want your heart to be with him. It's time to start paying him first and really making a commitment to that. I want you to know the reason why I have no doubts about telling you this is because your needs matter to God. The Bible says that when we were spiritually in need, he gave up the only thing that would take care of our spiritual need, his only son. So you think that if you have a cash need, he won't give you that? It says, no way. He gave everything for your needs. His only son, Jesus, died on the cross to meet our deepest need, which isn't money, it's spiritual. We are unloving, and we have brought lots of unloving words and actions into this world. And we've created a debt by doing that. And when Jesus came into this world and died on the cross, he paid our debt so that we can be completely forgiven. Your needs matter to him. Let me have you bow your heads. Maybe for you, the next step spiritually is to let Jesus Christ give you this amazing gift of forgiveness. Your needs matter to him. If you want him to forgive you for the unloving things that you've brought into this world, he's already willing to do it. You just need to cry out in faith to him. In your heart, say something like this. Say, Jesus, I'm not perfect, not even close to it. I know there are things in my life from my past that I'm ashamed of, that I want nobody to know about. But you've seen it all, every single word and thought and behavior. And when you died, you'd paid for it all. Please cancel my debt. Forgive me. Come and make your home inside of me today. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, as we finish up, can I ask you all to take the little connection card out of your program? Even if you're a regular attender, I ask you to do this. You don't have to fill it all in. Just put your name down, let us know you're here. But if you ask Jesus to forgive you, check this box right here. I ask Jesus to forgive me. Let us know about it. If you're watching online, at the top of our website, in the upper right-hand corner is a box. It says, I asked for his forgiveness. Check that box. Let us know what you've done, and we'll send you some follow-up stuff in the mail. Thanks so much for coming. Hope to see you again next week.